Hello YouTube. We're gonna have another unboxing. The first one of three. I've just received a large package from Multiman Publishing, so we're going to go through them one at a time. Each one will be its own video. First up, we've got the pocketbooks. We've got all three of the pocketbooks. So we've got the Pocket Edition rules themselves, Chapter A through G, as well as K and W, the Korean War. We'll get to that. A smaller version of the charts, and then finally the Chapter H vehicle and ordnance notes for most of the nationalities, including the Axis and Allied miners. And we'll get into each one. So, yeah, without further ado, let's break them down, guys. We'll see the video right now. All right, so this is the three books. The pocket books just arrived in the mail, fresh off the presses, as they say, current as of 2021. We're going to go through each one of them in quickly and not too much depth detail. If you're familiar with the game of Squad Leader, you know what's in these. For those of you uninitiated, highly recommend a purchase, albeit could be rather pricey. You might, if money is an issue and you have a tablet, the electronic one is probably better value for your money. It's cheaper, yet constant updates as they come out, and the convenience of having it on a tablet versus carting around three sets of books. Yeah, so let's look at each one. First up, we have the Pocket Edition. This encompasses the rules, again, Chapter A through G, and then we have Chapter K, which not too many people use anymore, I'd imagine, as well as the Korean War rule set coming up at the end. Yeah, Chapter K and W could probably just slice it off the book. It'd save you about a quarter inch of paper, make it a little bit thinner. But some guys may get some use out of this still. But now with the starter kits, it's less of a concern just because it's got all your bases covered for learning how to get into the game. So, start off, we have an intro to the second edition. Then on the left, we have the original first edition system introduction, as well as we have the intro to the Pocket Edition, indicating that current as of March 2021. This was an initiative started in August of 2015. So a lot of people have went through many efforts to produce this kind of work. So great appreciation to you guys. Thank you so much for doing something like this. Just updating the rules. It's almost like a version 2.5 with all the errata that's come out and clarifications, but the latest version 2 of the rulebook is this Pocket Edition. All right, so we have the table of contents. Probably not going to see much use as opposed to the index and glossary, which I can see a lot of people using it. Some guys I know have an issue with this being in the front. Indexes belong in the back of a book, which is true. However, given the convenience of what it contains, I like it in the front. This is the first thing I refer to whenever I'm looking for something. It gives me the exact location of something as opposed to just a table of contents, which only gives me a rough page. Doesn't give me a page number, just tells me which section it is. But yeah, we can, you want to find anything you want in here. Sometimes it gives you the exact information you want, like for example, APCR depletion number. It gives you the information right here in the index and glossary. You no longer need to refer to that specific rule, CA.1 in this case, for that information. It gives you a nice summation of what's going on. I like it at the front. One of the first things I always look at is this. And then from there, I consult the individual chapter rules. So nice and handy at the front, make use of it. We have our chapters in, as I said, A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. I won't go into all of them. They are updated. It says current as of 2021, which is the printing date. So anything that's come out recently, like anything that came out in Sword and Fire Manila, or any of the newer hassles that are currently in the works, will probably have additions to this, possibly necessitating a new edition at some point, but you know, we'll see those when we see those. Team has the two-tone Hungarian troops that are Axis miners. Yep. Chapter B is all your terrain rules, including the Hakapala prepared fire zones, light woods. I think towers and village terrain came out in Camp Piper, I think, but they're all been updated here. So Chapter C, your go-to chapter for any ordnance in OBA. Chapter D has all your vehicle information. Again, everything is current as of 2021, so all the errata are in here up to Hakapale. Chapter E, the miscellaneous. I think I've done most of these in here except for air support, swimming, and gliders. And air, oh no, air support is in there. Gliders, paratroop, and swimming, I think is what I've done. Convoys as well. Or what I have not done. I've done everything else, night, interrogation, weather. So a lot of useful chapters in here, a lot of information. Very handy to have that. Now it's in a small usable format. You can keep at your table a lot easier. Chapter F, North Africa. I'll be honest, I don't really care for desert scenarios at all. Dave and I have done a couple in the past, about 25 years ago or so now. Not my favorite theater to deal with, so I'm probably not going to get much use out of Chapter F. Although some of these rules might apply to the steppe terrain that you can find in Western Russia, Eastern Ukraine, that kind of area, the steppe terrain. Some of it might be useful, but generally speaking, I won't get much out of that. Chapter G, I do have Rising Sun. My intent is to get into this as soon as we're done, exhausting our European, or we want to take a break from the European theater of operations. Then we'll look into the PTO, break out the Japanese Marines and even Chinese versus Japanese, and just get at it. So that's when I'll be taking advantage of Chapter G, caves and the like. But for now, it'll stay unused. So for me, I could probably almost split this book into two. This will be the useful section, and this will be the less frequently referenced section until it comes out. But I'm not going to do that. Finally, we have Chapter K and Chapter W, the Korean War. So Chapter K, for those of you who don't know, is a training instruction. It's programmed instruction. It walks you through everything from how to move your units, how to carry stuff, lines of sight, shooting. It has all that information quite covered. It's quite nice. Oh, I also forgot the Chapter J Deluxe. I don't know how much Deluxe information is used. I know that hand-to-hand is very handy in Stalingrad and Valor of the Guards and other urban modules where it comes into play. But the specific Deluxe rules, not so much. It's really designed to be used with miniatures, I think. That's what it's designed for. But some guys might like using the larger boards just because you can put more stuff in a hex. But generally, Chapter J doesn't see much use from, I would say, most players. So then we jump into Chapter K, as I said. It's programmed instruction manual, so it walks you through everything. Right from walking your units, using up your movement points, to I think it just deals with infantry tactics. I don't think it gets into armor. But again, this is something that is handled quite well now by the starter kit, from my understanding. I've never looked at starter kit. But my understanding is it covers everything you need to know to some degree, maybe better than this programmed instruction, or maybe they use the two in conjunction. I know that starter kit omits lots of rules that are available in standard ASL. So this might see some use, but I guess it's useful for some. Finally, we have the UN Chinese-Korean War. Chapter W. I am not really interested in this early 1950s warfare. I much prefer World War II. I'm not going to get much use out of this chapter, I'll admit. But it is there for those of you that are interested in this kind of thing. So quality of the material itself. So the book itself. The book itself measures about an inch thick. It's about 8 inches by 9 inches. So it's a nice, I guess, digest size is what they say. The clarity of the text is quite good for the size of the paperwork. Now, the introduction is not the size of what you find in the rules. That's text is a little bit larger. So don't be fooled by that index. But I'm not wearing glasses. I'm looking at about 12 inches away, and I can very easily make out the text on the pages itself. So well done with that. Everything's nice and clear and clean. The paper itself is, fairly robust. It's not glossy, which I like. Ink is nicely absorbed into the paper, so it's not smudging. Obviously, any liquids or acids kind of thing get into that from your greasy fingers. You might have issues, but try to keep your hands clean if you could. But yeah, good quality product overall. My plan is to have the spine cut off, and I'm going to have it spiral bound all the way so that I can actually lay the book flat, as opposed to bending the spine and having to worry about pages falling out in the spine, cracking, as it were. So that's the pocket book. Next up, we're going to look at the charts book. This one already comes foil bound, which I like to see. Fairly skinny. It's only about not even maybe 1/4 inch thick. Again, same dimensions, 8 by 9. Nice summation of all the charts you're going to find, all the chapter dividers. Everything is quite handy. Centrally located is the IIFT, something I'm getting away from. I'm actually looking more and more at the IFT itself. So let's go through this quickly. There's our friend, the IFT. You've also got all the applicable modifiers for shooting as well as close combat. And there's some more Chapter A information as well. Heat of battle, victory points, snipers, leader creation role. Battlefield integrity is not something that we play with, Dave and I. We do use ELR, but because it's part of the rules, but we don't use the optional battlefield integrity. Never have. That's just too much paperwork. So we're moving on to Chapter B now. This is all your terrain rules. So this is, again, a nice summary of what happens with various dice rolls. The 4 different kinds of railroad that they now have in the game. And the terrain chart, which is good to see. It has things added in like the prepared fire zones from Hakapale and Light Woods. Some more Chapter B information here on the left. Primarily smoke and wind change. It could be handy, I guess. I could see this getting flipped through a lot. Chapter C, a lot of ordnance is going to be used. Require this table, as well as your to kill tables on the subsequent 2 pages. This is just a summary of a couple of other small tables that are crucial. Critical hit numbers, location of vehicle hits, if you can't remember that. Finally, we're into the Chapter D, which is your vehicles. So again, summary of bogging and vehicle expenditures. You have your shock, stun, and stun recall tables. And a nice, good Panzerfaust chart for you Panzerfaust using Axis players. It gives a good summary of what you have to roll, what you require, how many you can have, modifiers to your rolls, and of course it gives you your basic to hit numbers and all the rest of that. Finally, we're looking at Chapter E, which is miscellaneous. So this one page here is all your night rules. Let me look at the incremental IFT. Again, like I said, this is something that Dave and I are slipping away from. We're looking more at the IFT, the regular table. It seems to be more common here in North America where I am. Judging from the comments I read on things like Game Squad. There's some real vitriol for the IIFT. Not really sure why. If people want to use it, that's entirely up to them. But I'm sure you can find fault with either table, depending on your points of view. So we may go back to this at some point, but right now we're going to stay with the IFT. Air support, fog, and interrogation. And then we start getting into some miscellaneous things. Chapter G, I guess. Nice summary of what it takes to control a building. I probably could have used this at the ending of my last game when there was some issues about Dave and I trying to figure out who controlled what. Would have come in handy. OBA flowchart. Super handy. OBA rules can be somewhat confusing. So I love it in Vassal when you have the OBA flowchart extension. You just click through the buttons, answer the prompts, and it takes you to the next result. So super handy use, and this flowchart I can see getting a lot of use when we start getting some OBA added to the scenarios we're playing. Overrun flowchart. Again, another useful chart, something that I really haven't done a lot of. And that includes infantry overrun is overrunning, especially with vehicles. I did it once in a solitaire Valor of the Guards campaign. It was quite useful. But the first time I'd used a vehicle overrunning infantry, and it's a shame because again they're much more versatile than just a mobile gun platform. There's a real chance, albeit you take a risk with it, but it's good to have in the toolbox being able to do a vehicle overrun. And this flowchart gives you a nice little summary of what you can expect to look at. Chapter F, again, I'm not really interested in the desert terrain, so I'm going to ignore that one. And this is Chapter G, which we're not into yet. We will at some point look at Rising Sun and playing some Pacific Theater, but not right now. So they have their own terrain chart. Korean War nationality has their own capabilities chart. And at the end, we have an ASOP, Advanced Sequence of Play. Very handy, probably infrequently looked at, but if you want the order of sequence of events, then this is definitely the tool for you, along with all the specific chapter section headings if you want to refer to the note itself. But very handy sequence of play. The printing is quite legible again for looking at it from about 12 inches away without glasses. Makes it nice and clear. Then finally we have a summation of Chapter C again and Chapter D. So one thing about this I failed to mention on the covers, it replicates what's in the old 3-ring binder. The hard covers had these prints, so it gives you nice little counter information, which is again a lot of useful information can be gleaned from a counter. And if you don't know what you're looking at, this is the kind of thing that you refer to figure that out. And then we have a summary at the back of pertinent shooting and close combat, heated battle kind of stuff. So that's the charts. I like to see that it's already spiral bound. Again, same quality paper as in the rulebook. It's not glossy. Ink does not smudge at all, which is good. Yeah, it's going to get a lot of use. All right, so finally we have the Chapter H, which is all your vehicle and ordnance notes broken up by nationalities. Now the nationalities, it would be nice if down the sides you had the different colors to represent the nationalities. Right now all you have is a Chapter H yellow. You don't have the different nationalities, so it might take a little bit of thumbing through or the use of post-its to separate the nationalities. But Chapter H notes, very handy, useful. For those of you that don't know, it's got design your own stuff at the beginning if you want to design your own games. It walks you completely through how do you do that. But the information here is very useful. It gives you a lot of history about the different vehicles and guns, which some of you may find really interesting. I know I do. It also might give you rules on how to apply to that particular vehicle. Things such as these vehicle notes, which you have to refer to that apply to this particular vehicle. Very important that you study these notes. Some of them could be game-changing, or could give your opponent an edge if you're not aware of them, or overpowered if against your opponent if you think you have something but in fact you don't. So understanding things like when you have Shurs and when you don't, when you have gyro stabilized, when you don't, ranges of ammunition, etc. All that kind of information can be found in these kind of notes. So they should be constantly referred to. So it has the main nationalities: Russia, Germany, Russia, US. It has the British. It has the French. Now the French are just broken up into now with the new Croix de Guerre box set, they are broke up the Vichy and the Free French. I don't know if the vehicle notes reflect that or if just because of their nature, the Free French or the Vichy French were using German equipment. I'm not sure. I haven't really delved into that yet. But they do have separate Vichy French and Free French OBA on the left and on the right, respectively, as well as support weapon allotments for design your own scenarios. So they do separate them to some degree, but I would assume that by and large they're probably the same. It doesn't. The differences are negligible by and large. I'm sure the Vichy French can use German equipment, no problem. But again, like I said, I haven't really got into the French yet. So we follow that up with the minors, Allied and Axis. Looking at the fins here. And then finally we get into the UN Chapter W, Korean War vehicles and notes. So much like the Pocket Rulebook, same dimensions. This one's a bit thinner, about 3/4 inch thick, 8x9. Again, same kind of paper. It's not glossy, which is good. The print is legible. Again, no glasses, 12 inches away, and I have no problems reading this text. And I gotta admit, that was a concern of mine when I bought these because I kept hearing about how small the print was. Maybe my eyes aren't that bad yet, I don't know. But right now, it's looking pretty good. So unlike the rulebook, my intent is not to have this spiral bound, although it would be nice to have. It's not critical. While I'm going to reference this as I play, it's not going to be referenced a lot in-game. So I'll be able to take the time, not to crack the spine too much and make sure the papers don't get loose and fall out, which is my bigger concern with the rulebook itself. And there we have it, guys. The Pocket Rulebooks. All three of them. Again, we have the Chapter H rules, we have the rulebook, and then we have nice charts themselves. Purchase wise, not cheap. I live in Canada, so I got dinged with the customs import on this package. Mind you, it's probably because of the size of the package that I ordered that it got caught because my Yanks one was not nabbed by customs, but I had to pay customs and duties on 2 modules as well as these sets of books, which pushed up the cost of these things with conversion probably in the order of 150 Canadian, which is ridiculous for a rule set. For those of you on a budget, it would be better to get the electronic rulebook. I mean, you can probably get a tablet for 150 bucks. The rulebook is 60 bucks, I believe, US, and it gets updated more frequently than this paper version will. So that might be a better course of action for you. But if you don't mind supporting the hobby and multi-man publishing, who can always use our dollars, getting something like this helps to support them, and you can actually hold a book in your hands. Something I really enjoy is holding a book. I can read PDFs online and ebooks online, and I do have a copy of the electronic rulebook for when I'm playing Vassal because I can have it on my second monitor while I'm playing on my right, and access all the hyperlinked rules that way. But there's just something about holding a book in your hands that's is super handy and convenient. You can sit in bed and read this. I mean, you can do that with a reader as well. But holding something physical in your hands, for me, is still a way to go. And I much prefer that over an electronic book. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below about the Pocket Rulebooks. Let me know if you're going to get them. Yeah, what your thoughts are. And I'll see you guys in the next video.